So now, in this third part of our lesson on overheads, we're going to see a demonstration of how we can spread out the cost of our overheads over our hourly rates. To help me to illustrate this to you and demonstrate it better, I'm going to use labour rate firstly to calculate the hourly cost of each individual staff member, and then I'm going to demonstrate how you would apply that to a job or each specific job using Labour 9. Now, everything I show you by using these two tools is just to help you understand and show you it can be done faster, but it can be achieved using Microsoft Excel. So if you want to use Microsoft Excel and work that up, then just use my contact details at the end and I can help you. Let's now have a look at method 2 being applied. You'll remember in one of my previous videos we looked at this layout. Let me just zoom in and show you how this would work out for the overhead costs. Let's just recap these figures. So here we have the base contract rate of each individual, plus if we take the total available hours coming up of that individual and divide his other costs like entitlements and allowances, we get these other ones here. We add those on, and once we've added those figures on, at the end here we have this what I call painful hourly rate. So that's a bare minimum that that individual's costing you. So over here we're going to now look at the overhead costs. So what we've got here is the overhead cost divided on a pro rata basis. So you may be wondering, how do we achieve that? Well, in the software here, if we go down, you can see here we have overheads evenly distributed as an option, or pro rata. So it's simply a case of clicking on the pro rata to get this calculation. And when we do that, what we find here is the distribution of the overhead costs on a pro rata basis, looking at the available hours and earnings we're likely to get from those individuals. So adding on the pro rata overhead costs per hour per individual, you can see here it's an additional $7.76. On Benny down here, $8.28. And that is added to these figures over here, and it gives us these figures. See that? So if we look at it from the basis, we have a contract hourly rate here, we have a contract plus entitlements rate here, and lastly over here, this one, this is contract plus entitlement plus overhead CEO. And this is the all attributed rate. And now what we have is the full cost factor, the per staff member cost, before we make profit cost of each individual. And that's the figure we really want before we work out the true cost of labour on a job. And this figure is the figure we really want to work out the per hourly cost of each individual hour of labour on a job, so that we know what our cost is on that job. Now that we know the cost per hour of each of the individuals, and then we know which individuals are on which jobs, we can apply those costs to those jobs to get a better understanding of what the true cost of labour is. So let's have a quick look at that again. If we go back to our jobs and we look at each individual item here, and then we apply individuals here, these costs here should reflect the true hourly cost as it currently stands for the individuals, and we'll find our calculations here are going to be much more accurate. Without that, we end up with vast variations in what the costs are in job, and it's very hard to control those costs. So now that we've got the item quantity and we've worked out the labour content, you can see it here, and as we apply individuals, you can see that it calculates our costs down here so that we know the cost per individual. And that cost came from what? Well, it came from working out the full attributed cost of that labour, and these hourly rates here reflect that. So now we've got a much better idea of what the total cost is per job. So here you have it here. So this job is currently running at 754 hours of labour, and that labour is going to cost $29,319. Much more specific, much more accurate, much more useful. So there are two big downstream benefits of doing this. One of them is the ability to back cost your labour in two ways. Number one, because we have a budget dollars on what the labour should cost us for that job. Number two, because we have the hours per each individual task. So we have a much better ability to delegate that work out and to monitor that our predictions and our staff performance matches that prediction. So back costing has a big impact on our efficiency gains and therefore gives us the levers we were desiring earlier. And it therefore gives us an indication of what levers we can pull to improve efficiency. The other thing you would have heard me mention on numerous occasions is attributing costs. In other words, the art of attribution. And I want to produce the next video on attribution and the theory of how we attribute costs so that we know where to apply them. Because if we attribute things properly, we'll find the levers on how to control those things. If we just group them, we never do, and we can't actually become more efficient as a company and therefore more cost effective and more competitive in a down market. So please look for my next video on how to attribute costs. If you want to know more, here are all the buttons and resources that you need. Just use these links to go places. Don't forget to share this video with friends who you think might need this video.